It is I, Travis Keats Ross, Revel Rosz, Dakota Slim. Listen, identity crisis aside, welcome to my mystery school, my audio grimoire. You're listening to Pragmagick. It is amazing how quickly we've become friends, let alone how fast R.U.U.N.E is becoming a staple of the local music and occult scene since moving to Portland from Boston this year. We are undoubtedly similar as fervent creators and conjurers, as well as had similar trajectories. Once tirelessly touring musicians, now folklore-obsessed practitioners of the woo. But R.U.U.N.E has an enigmatic soul very much their own. As a Reiki healer, tarot diviner, and chaos magician, R.U.U.N.'s unique gift is that of making people feel good by being kind. Whether it's metaphysically or interpersonally, they're always beaming with a Cheshire smile and an inventive energy. R.U.U.N.'s magical outlook is especially unique as it advances yesteryear's cyberpunk aesthetics and expands them into a modern magical language using the symbology of video games. They cast and conjure code like a pixelated sorcerer in the side-scrolling 8-bit epic that is their rich and wondrous life. Also, like R.U.U.N.E creates audio sigils, concept records that are imbued with magical minutiae to create a hyperworld all their own. Their newest is Neptune in Babylon, and I might have cracked the code on that title's origin in this very episode. Be sure to stay tuned for the premiere of Shred/Drastic or Shred Drastic. I'm not sure how they mean for me to pronounce that, but it's a dance through the cybernetic dirge and an ode to the art of sigil making itself. You'll no doubt hear more from R.U.U.N.E, whether it's via this podcast or as part of our art collective and a culture blog, WeTheHallowed.org, as R.U.U.N.E has become a new addition to this strange pantheon of paranormal Power Rangers that is We the Hallowed. You can listen to a very special and unique tarot reading R.U.U.N.E had given me at the end of our interview, which is only available through Patreon at patreon.com/WeTheHallowed, where you're also going to find the full unedited interview sans this psychobabble and all of the other bullshit accoutrement that I might imbue this podcast with. Without further ado, slither hither, weirdos and witches. Here's my brilliant combo with R.U.U.N.E. Start imbuing things publicly as a magician, especially when we'll get to the new album, because I know that it's just packed to the brim with different wonderful minutia, magical minutia. But when did you come out, to the world? Because I think that's like a big thing with magic these days, is that it does feel like a lot of practitioners are finally comfortable, and I think that's one of the beauties of the oversaturation. Is that it's not so much a taboo anymore. When did you feel comfortable?
Well, I two people who I met, I never hid it really. Right. But I didn't make it a part of my branding or kind of talk about it on the internet all that much.
At that point?
Yeah. While I was sort of doing my 10-year folk artist acoustic tour thing.
Yeah. Because you were a different creature.
Yeah. No, I mean, I was definitely, I think I wasn't talking about it, but I was definitely living it. Because when you're on the road, there's a kind of chaos magic that just exists when you're just sort of you're playing a game of yes and you're
surviving by whatever ritual you can keep.
And there are things that I could definitely feel When I was in the big giant brass band kind of thing, like.
And what was that called?
Speaker for the Dead.
Speaker for the Dead.
Yeah. We were like this like 15 to 30 piece band, and like
That's insane.
there was definitely a kind of magic to that, into like that it's completely impossible that we would be able to tour.
I mean, I can't get 3 people in the same room for long enough.
But like when we would play, I could like feel it in my hands and like palpable energy, like sometimes in the shape of like a sword kind of thing, like by the end of the set, because you can't have that many people around you like doing like sort of focusing on something that you made without feeling this like a mass of like magical energy.
Yeah, it was church.
Yeah, basically. And it's interesting, my 5 years ago I would have like balked at you saying that, been like, oh
sure.
But like there is a thing about
I would have balked at myself.
Yeah. But there is a, and I think when that band stopped, I got really afraid, because I realized sort of, and this is like hard to admit, but I realized the power of like charisma and how that's dangerous.
Yeah.
Because like there are parts of that band that I would take back for sure. Like, and I'm not going to talk about them now. But like there's no reason that all those people should, and we had good times, but there's no reason that all those people should have just like followed me across the country and like done things. And it's not that I was like this, like, I'm not saying I was like this like prophet messiah or anything like that. We were just a band, like, but there were some parts of it that were maybe dangerous, and like that I was like putting people in danger by like having them come along, and I don't think I was like responsible enough to necessarily sort of face that. And also it was like I was surviving, like that was just kind of like I was not living anywhere at the time, so.
That mirrors a lot of my last decade, or at least coming out of that. But that stark realization that not intentionally, but being able to kind of manipulate not even just outside forces, but like, psychic,
like people
people
who exist in the world
that kept helping me and kept answering the call and kept doing all of that, like, artistically, is just amazing. And like, I feel terrible that I didn't treat it more royally,
for sure,
with more like diplomatic interest or fervor, gratitude,
No, it's like, I think it's because when you're in the moment, and now that I've stepped back from being a full-time artist as like my thing, like a creative, like a full-time creative person, when you're in that place, you just gotta go. You can't you can't stop, because the minute you stop, or like, I don't think this is really how it is, but you feel like the minute that you stop, then you will like lose the momentum.
Absolutely.
So you just have to go, and you have to just kind of take what you can get and like give what you can give, and just like ask for apologies later, kind of thing.
Oh yeah, that was a motto for sure.
Yeah, and now that I've stepped back from it, it's interesting because like now I see the go, like kind of moving past me. And I think that, so after I stopped doing all of that, and I sort of had a little
stop.
Yeah, stop. And I was trying to figure out like, what am I gonna do with my life now, because I've been just playing music forever. And it turns out you're gonna live. I was planning on like playing music till I die. Like I was just going to just die like in the middle of the road. Like I don't think I like really actively thought this back then, but now like looking back at my old self, I'm like, yeah, that was definitely my plan.
Heart attack, plugging in a guitar pedal.
Yeah.
At some bar in Hoboken, New Jersey.
Yeah, I was like, how do I like what am I gonna do now? And so I started to realize that what I really like doing, even though we had that talk about like, you know, the selfishness of being a creative person and stuff like that.
Sure.
Like my real, I feel like, skill set that I got from all of that was being nice to people, because I had to be nice to people so that I could have a place to sleep and have food to eat and like have money to get to the next place. And
okay, so there was like
it started as a survival thing.
Right.
But like I really love making people feel good. Like that's just like I love empowering people. And I was like, how can I do that except in a way where I get paid? And that I think is where a lot of the tarot stuff and sort of like village witch work kind of that I do now came from. And it wasn't so much a coming out as doing it. Like I think when I started doing it, everybody was like, oh yeah, like
right,
like you did that for me like 4 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
I've been doing like I just got Reiki certified like in the past three or 4 years, but I've been doing like energy modality healing stuff since I was like 14 years old or something like that.
I mean, just intuitively, or?
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe not intuitively, more like, you know, I played video games in Dungeons and Dragons. Like there's a cleric healer class like this, like, and when and I was into, like, I went through my like pagan teenager phase and like was into magic and stuff like that. So it wasn't, and I was into chaos magic when I was like 11 years old or something. Yeah. So like it wasn't that like far of a stretch to just be like even without like necessarily understanding all of that, because a lot of chaos magic can kind of get really like academically sciencey. I feel
see,
like,
then again, yeah, that's the thing. It's like that's when it's not an approach anymore. It's a system itself.
It's a system
because this whole thing with belief as a tool.
Yeah.
No, but then there needs to be piety and there needs to be a reverence. To me, chaos magic is belief in belief. You know.
Yeah.
And allowing or experimenting with the deep understanding of different practices. But yeah, when people treat it like a Swiss Army knife or something to cut a hole in a trick to get there quicker, you know?
Yeah. Well, I actually found that growing up, a lot of texts that I read about chaos magic were just too smart for me to read.
Oh yeah.
Like they were very like sciencey, because I think that they were like trying to separate themselves from like kind of other
results based.
Yeah.
This is
so
results based.
It's very, there's a lot of big words and and I'm just like I'm not trying to say that I'm like not smart, but I'm definitely like I didn't do great in school. Sure. And so like,
but at that time it would have definitely been over anybody's
head. It was just way over my, especially as like a preteen to teenager. But I did play Final Fantasy and you know, put your hands up, glowy light, you now have more hit points. Like that's not hard to understand.
Wait your turn.
Yeah, wait your
Cloud
turn.
strike. Yeah.
But like, so I mean, as nerdy as it's like, I don't kind of use that framework a lot anymore, but that was what kind of definitely made it like easier for me to understand. Okay. It's just like, you know, you want to do something and you just think about it and do the thing. And I used to, in high school, I used to kind of like practice on my friends and be like, can you feel heat or whatever? And I mean, they said yes. They might have just been like, you know, playing along with me or whatever. But now I know that, like, you know, years later, like I do Reiki on people and like they feel better. And that might be because anybody feels better after having someone just pay attention to you for an hour. Or it might be... But the
placebo's just as good.
I'm a big fan of placebo, whether it's placebo or whether it's spook, whatever. Like, I don't care. Like,
right, exactly.
Because I, like... like, I guess I am, like, I am results oriented in that, like whether it's placebo or
Sure,
not, I don't
yeah.
care.
You're not doing it for shits and gigs.
Yeah,
It's like,
but I'm also
Yeah.
not results oriented in that I actually think the idea of looking at magic as results oriented is kind of silly.
Yeah.
Because
yeah, absolutely. It's about the process.
Mainly, well, that, but also because if magic is results oriented,
Uh-huh.
and there are other people who are easily doing the things that we're trying to do with magic
Mm-hmm.
without using magic, like, what does that say?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, then that's the thing with a lot of these people that reverse engineer everything as chaos magic, you know?
yeah.
They're in this dark cabal that are all wizarding this like crazy shit. And they're just doing it. The intent's bad, but the intent is not to create something bad through magic. It just is. And maybe that's the biggest trump of all.
Yeah.
Because I often say that, like,
Yeah.
real magic works when you eliminate the desire.
Yeah.
Like when the desire is gone, when you stop wanting something, that's when it comes.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of times. It's also that, like, instead of looking at it as like results based,
Right.
or trying to get a result, instead I look at magic as a way of, like, just trying to cope.
Yeah.
Because that is like, because like, if you're trying to get stuff out of it,
Yeah.
then, like, I mean, it works. Like, people do stuff and it works and, like, whatever. But it's also like, if you're someone who's just like, some person who's just like, oh, I'm going to do a sigil to get a job or whatever.
Right.
Or to get, like, a partner or, like, whatever. It's just like, that is like, there are people who are doing that without using magic.
Yes.
But I feel like it's much more meaningful to kind of do this magic to say, like, I am unemployed, and I need to be happy while I'm unemployed.
Yes. Yeah.
So that when the opportunity to become employed comes, I'm not, like, too much of a wreck to take it.
Exactly. It's prepping yourself to be ready to receive.
Yeah. And
my whole thing, it's configuring a reaction. Like, because shit happens, or it's just a reminder. This is what the micro decision you're about to make should be about, because shit's going to be in your way. You gotta remember where the steering wheel is, and this is a way to do it,
This here Pragmagick podcast is brought to you by Portland, Oregon's open source art religion and Pragmagick art collective, We the Hallowed. For more information, please visit wethehallowed.org or support these fine, pious individuals at patreon.com/wethehallowed. Remember, that's hallowed like saintly. HALLOWED. Thank you, and hold on.
But have you ever had any, like, preternatural, or, I mean, you work with Reiki. I guess that's a bit.
I do. Wait, do you mean spooky? Is that?
I guess. Yeah,
okay,
I like
cool.
that. Let's just say spooky.
You are a lot better at words.
Well,
than I am.
Spooky's actually, that's perfect. I'm probably gonna co-op that.
I'll do it. Like, I don't care. It's not that your word wasn't bad. I was trying to understand.
No, totally. Yeah.
Yeah, I do stuff all the time. Like, I do Reiki, obviously.
Sure. Yeah.
I do tarot and runes.
But has there been an experience that has, like, shown you that there are forces outside of this?
Tons. Yeah, definitely. Tons all the time. Like, even just a month ago, I did this time ritual thing.
Oh yeah, I remember you telling me that.
What did I? It's
daylight savings time.
Yeah. It was because there's a I think a Scottish game developer who has a Patreon that's like the House of Alexander or something, that I follow them on Twitter. Super amazing. Like, exactly what I want out of Twitter. which is hard to find.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard, when you find that exact social media account that you're like, this is why I stay online. Like,
It's equal funny and
yeah, so
enlightening.
Good. Yeah, so good.
Impossible.
But he had made a time ritual called Weird Time, and it was sort of this ritual where you, like, in between the hours of like 12 and 1 during daylight saving time, the hour that like disappears, you sort of imbue like an object with the energy of weird time.
Like a talisman?
Yeah, like anything you have, and you do it. There's a whole bunch of stuff that you do, and I mean, it's not even that much, but I missed it because I forgot. I'm a doofus, and I forgot what day daylight savings time was actually on.
Right, and you would never know if you never knew because everything updates with that time. Yeah.
So I missed it, and I was like, oh, I have to wait another year to do this, and I was so pissed. But then 11/11 came along, and it was really fun. Like, sometimes you just get these opportunities, like you sort of live in like the mundane life for a little while, and then you have like these opportunities to really like rev up your Magic game and be like, I'm gonna do this thing, and it's gonna be awesome. And I crafted this sort of ritual to take, like, on 11/11 the 11:11 a.m. and the 11:11 p.m. and make like a window that then I could like use that window to go back to any other time that I wanted to go to, and have it be, for me, that day in the past between 11 and 11 and 11:11. So I moved it back to like 11:11 p.m. to 11:11 a.m. so I could like relive that time of daylight savings time.
And just in this one instance?
Just in this one instance, so I could redo.
Oh, so you could
ritual.
redo the spell.
Yeah. And it's really fun. Like, I think
actually.
that's like the funnest thing about Magic, is sort of being like,
totally,
like, oh, there's a loophole.
That's one of those, like, genie grants you 3 wishes.
Yeah.
It's to have infinite wishes.
Yeah.
It's the first wish. Yeah.
So, and it was really great because I was like, I mean, I'm not like a substance person. I haven't been very high that often. But I was very.
So you hit.
I was very spooky.
Yeah.
For that whole 12 hours.
Yeah, and so like you had a physical.
Yeah.
Like reaction to that. Yes.
And I just felt very.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what I think. What I think is like. The greatest thing about Chaos Magic is that it's the best creative writing project, like, ever. Because those are the best rituals, and the best mythologies are when it's not just like, oh, I'm gonna do this thing or whatever. It's when you write a story with the thing that you're doing. It's just you're the protagonist, and you live it in real life.
Yeah, it's creating and your own folklore.
Yeah, it's really great. Like, world building is like the most powerful like thing in Chaos Magic to me. Like, I had this really it was a really great kind of like Instagram interaction with my friend Anna Joy, who does the Queer Witch podcast that I was just on, and they were talking about sort of like, they were asking the question of the ethics behind sort of like getting grave dirt, or like dirt from a graveyard kind of thing.
Yeah.
And my response was, if they're like a super wealthy, like if they're,
how would you know that?
Well, you do your research. Like, you kind of look up families and stuff like that. But like, and that, it was kind of a snarky response that I was making just for the lulz. But then she got back to me, and she was like, haha. But then she was like, and I don't think, she doesn't consider herself like a chaos magician at all. So I don't want to like prescribe a thing to her, but it's definitely this kind of world building thing that she did, which is what I think is the most incredible about any path or ritual.
Sure.
She was like, if I, like, it could be really good, like, work to do if they are like this old rich family that like exploited the kind of like community around them and to get their money and blah blah blah, and I use this dirt to do work like in the community, then I'm healing their family by
making them assist
I'm making them assist, which heals them from like things that they maybe have like, you know, marks against them for like for buying into the magic of capitalism or whatever. And like that kind of like nitty-gritty world building is like the best kind of like magic, chaos magic or not.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely. I think, you know, that's the thing. It's like chaos magic is, you know, it's a term that I think has been imbued with a lot of systems and structures, and it's missing the point. It's unique to the chef, right? And it's cooking. And the true, I would say the true wherewithal with any one of those would know how to substitute things or make things work on the fly. Yeah. You know, you're out of salt, screw it, we'll use, you know, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And to me, that's the cornerstone of folklore creation. Yeah. You know? But I was wondering if you had ever had any, spooky, like literal spooky interaction. Literal in our meaning of the word spooky. Yeah. If you have seen magic utilized or have had a visitation with other, you know, forces outside of yourself, or is this all just a magnanimous subconscious, you know, structure that we're toying with?
Oh, okay. So I see what we're getting at. Like it's kind of like the question of like, is it a part of our psychology, or is it like spirits and stuff that we're summoning up?
Sure. Yeah. Or if you've had another understanding of it.
Yeah, I think it is both at the same time, which is like such a cop-out answer.
No, I agree.
But I think it's that there are all these spirits that kind of like have their own agenda and have their own thing.
Right.
But our perception is so powerful that the parts of ourselves that we are dealing with are like meshing. Like there's kind of like us on the left side and them on the right side, and sort of like in the middle is sort of this like third spirit that is created between the game of telephone that happens between our like perception and our discernment and like
fathomability.
But I definitely like
you have had experience.
So I have a pretty I was all through my life I've never been a big like deity person. Like I've never been big into like worship, and I'm still not really that into, but like I have a pretty big connection to sort of like Neptune as a sort of god energy sort of deal. And the ritual that I did that sort of like helped me figure that out was super powerful, and I definitely felt like Neptune there. At the end of the ritual, it just like downpour started raining like immediately. Like it was really hard for me to breathe, like kind of like I could feel sort of this like force being like, yep, I am here, and who knows what that means, you'll find out later, kind of thing.
So what were you calling him or them for?
I was calling them because I had like, so I have two names. Like I go by R.U.N.E and then also Greg. Those are my two names. And when I discovered R.U.N.E as a name, it was because I was doing this ritual to sort of like provide names to different like parts of myself, like a higher, mid, and lower self kind of deal. And I got those names, and then I kind of like put them on the shelf for a little bit. And when, I don't really remember how, but I just sort of like had all of these things in my life that were pointing to like connection to like a like mythology or like a god or something, like a higher
Like
self.
an archetypal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, I'm not really into that. But then I eventually remembered this ritual I did where Neptune had come up. And I started looking into Neptune and got really fascinated with sort of like the history of like how water spirits and water gods have evolved through mythologies through all of time. And they're usually kind of like this mother, like give birth to the earth kind of thing. And then all of a sudden Neptune is like this like burly bearded like water god.
Yeah.
And so that gave me a feeling that like really resonated with my queerness. And I was like, okay, cool. So like, and it's not Neptune as like that version of Neptune. For me, it's a very sort of like astrological.
Right. But this also ties into the whole issue you're finding with being a healer.
Yeah.
And being gender normed.
Yeah. It's all over the place. And
That's
and I
cool.
was like, okay, well, if I'm feeling called to this, then you gotta do the interview.
Right.
You just gotta do it. So I just sort of like, and all of my rituals have always been very just like unplanned improv. Like I don't do a whole lot of planning all the time. I do have like one sort of like go-to ritual that I'll talk about when we talk about the album, but like this was kind of just like a big bam boom kind of 2-hour long meditative like whatever. I don't even remember what I did really.
Right.
I might have it written down somewhere, but it's hard for me to like keep notes while I'm like in the thick of it. And it was just this like really intense sort of thing. But also even beyond that, like as far as like beings like from the not material realm, like all my time on the road, I just like met so many not there people, like just like people who like exist here but don't exist here. I've been always really in like I've had a very big connection to like the astral plane for my whole life. And so it's always like it's kind of always been there. Like it's there are too many times to list. It's like my whole life has just been like one big like thing that just sort of
circus of ethereal weirdness.
Yeah.
I know how you feel.
Yeah, I have restructured the way that I think that like all the planes interact with each other so many different times. And every single time it's a wonderful thing. Like I love every time that I just like get to restructure my whole mythology to like fit something new, because it's just more writing and like I'm sorry if that doesn't really answer.
No,
your
it
question.
does. And it's funny too, because it all fits. Like the more you add, you think it might be contradictory to something, and then you realize, no, the contradiction's kind of the point.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is that like the idea, I repeat myself on this like for everyone that I talk to all the time, but one of the things as far as like writing, and because as we've discussed, writing is very attached to like my ritual and my magic and my mythology, but that my husband taught me is this idea that like stories don't have to make sense all the time.
Sure.
In particular, when he writes about this stuff, it's in relation to like a trans and genderqueer narrative, in that like things don't have to just have like a beginning, middle, and end, because like
not like an explanatory.
Because like life doesn't work that way sometimes. But I think that fits a lot more narratives, because I think that like when we're asked about our experience, it's always coming from a logical point of view, and sort of avoiding like the emotional stuff. And like, for instance, if you're ever like in a court or whatever, like emotions don't matter,
right?
Spirituality doesn't matter. It's just kind of logic.
Yeah.
And so the idea that stuff like doesn't have to make sense means that like you can have all this contradictory stuff, because like sometimes, X might mean Y. And sometimes X might mean C.
The 2
and
plus
like,
2 equals 5.
It changes all the time, and it's going to mean different things in different places. And that's just that. Like, I have a exercise that I do about once a month where I try to like go back and ascribe different elements to activities that I've done, to be like, okay, I went for a walk. That's an earth
Oh, I see.
thing.
Yeah.
And like, okay, I studied for my test. That's an air thing, or whatever. Just to like,
Right.
and I make little pie graphs so that I can like see visually like where all my elements are and
Where you're
stuff like
spending
that.
your most time?
Yeah, where I'm spending my most time, because everything is a video game.
That's
to
a
me.
great. I wanted to talk about that too.
But it's but sometimes one action like will be like for instance, like if you are like in love with someone and you're doing something with them that is about that love, like regardless what the action is, it could be anything. But sometimes that's going to be a fire thing, because like passion and stuff like that.
Right.
But sometimes it's going to be a water thing, because like water is
Mood
about
and
emotion
intensity,
and
yeah.
mood and memory. So like it can be anything. And that's like the great thing about personal mythologies, is that like it not only can change over time, it can be, you can have like multiple dimensions of the same mythology where you have like different rules depending on how you're feeling that day.
Yeah. So you're seeing, I love this. Like you're seeing, so your folklore is almost like a user interfaced kind of open source, like non-linear but linear,
Yeah.
like 8-dimensional different realm.
Yeah.
entering
No, I
thing.
mean, it's definitely, I like also
8-dimensional. I meant like pixel.
the chaos magic that I grew up in was actually a pretty close meld between chaos magic and like technomancy.
Cyberpunk.
Yeah, like
absolutely.
that's
Mondo
what I,
2000.
That's what I grew up with.
Me too.
So my my like ritual is like entirely code based.
Yeah.
Like that's just how I think.
I dig it. Yeah.
Like that's just, and I don't even code. Like when I make video games and stuff, and I use the cheat things where I like drag Tetris blocks over to say I want
this. Is the way you visualize your interaction with the different planes.
I definitely say like, okay, like I'm trying to increase this parameter in my life. I need to write a code, and sometimes that will be me literally writing a fake code into Google Docs.
Right.
And sometimes that will be me like lighting a blue candle, because that's how I feel today.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I'm a very basic witch.
Yeah.
And sometimes I am an android from another planet. Like it changes on a daily basis. But that's definitely like how I think about things.
Yeah.
And because it's it's all code, because it is all, even though like chaos magic shouldn't be a system necessarily all the time, what we do with our lives,
it's an attitude and an approach.
Yeah. But what we do with our lives is systems. Like we do have like routines and pathways that we go on all the time. There are ways that we react to things. Like we have if and like and or situations, like if this happens to us, we will do this, because like
choose your own adventure.
Like we are predictable beings to some degree, and
you died of cholera.
So it's so that's just how like it's easy to think of like that our ritual magic can like affect the code of things in like a matrix.
I mean, isn't that what it is? Yeah, that totally is what it is. I guess as far as reality programming or any of the open source ideology of like time and shared or interpersonal, somatic reality, it still constitutes that it would be like reactionary towards whatever vector you're interfacing with. And it would still, like, yes, you could, your ritual would have had all the parameters, all the codes or whatever, but, when it came face to face with this vector, who knows what's going to happen, because, so I totally get that. But it's also a very like causal kind of way to see it, but not. I've always been fascinated with the kind of, I guess cyberpunk is to use a term.
Yeah.
But we both know what I mean, I think.
Yeah, well, cyberpunk. I mean, cyberpunk and technomancy are a little bit different in that, like, cyberpunk is a very specific genre of fiction writing.
Technomancy is a book.
Technomancy it is a book that is cyberpunk, but technomancy, as far as like a practice, is more about like technomancy.
But it's also like you're creating and I mean, Tommy Kelly, if he hears this, is going to be pissed off at me because I don't know if I even understood his definition of egregore. But you are creating like a thought form within something as to jurisdict what you're interacting with. Like it is very like the video game analogy makes a lot of sense to me. Like especially with your stuff. Yeah. Because I do see a tether through it that is very using like up to date, or not even up to date, using human computing methods to kind of paint a picture about what you're traversing, even though that it's, you know, the methods are two-dimensional.
Yeah, well, it's about because like when you think about a video game, it's a world.
Yeah.
That's
well,
like
now there's like, you know, open world. Blah,
well, yeah,
blah,
but
blah.
the base, like,
but what I see with yours
base,
is different level.
No matter how complicated a game is, it's always a world that someone can exist in, and there are ways of tinkering with the code to change that world. Right. So and I learned this from game design.
But at the same time, you are a vector of yourself. You're an avatar.
Yeah, you know what I mean? You are. But as far as just like I'm using, like I'm not as much talking about the connection between the game and the real world as I am just using the game as like an analogy for the real world.
That's what I'm saying.
And and in video games, there's this thing called the debug room. And what the debug room is it's a room created in the game that's separate from where the players can get to. Right. That the game designers use to like test and tinker with things. Yeah, yeah. And there are two of the most like documented of people like messing with them. Debug rooms are the debug rooms for Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy VIII, because they're just these like long hallways that your character can like run through, and there's people in each one that you can talk to that have these like menus show up of like just gibbledygook, and depending on which one you click, you can go anywhere in the game, you can go anywhere in the timeline of the game, you can change any stat of any character, and like that, like this is like the most nerdy thing ever, but that is my
That's your shit.
That's my magic, but in like the real world.
I was just gonna say, can we call it 8-bit Mancy?
Yeah, I mean, sure, yeah.
Just to have fun with it. But yeah, that brings me to, that brings us to the album. I mean, you touched on Neptune earlier. Yeah. Was that initial ritual because Babylon obviously was the female like counterpoint?
Well, so.
Neptune in Babylon, right?
Neptune in Babylon, the title, has like a significantly less interesting reason why the title happened. Okay,
but is it safe to assume that works?
A little bit, maybe. I guess so. In the narrative of it, the reason that the title
you're turning Neptune into Babylon.
I guess so. Yeah. It's more that the reason that title happened was because I had a folder that I put all of my tracks into, and it was Ableton. And then I made a second folder and called it Be Ableton. And that turned into Babylon.
Never meet your heroes, folks.
that is the reason for that. And then I just tacked Neptune onto the front. But the sort of
okay, but that's fun. That's a good like.
Yeah, I don't. It's the sort of like
synchronous at least.
Yeah, synchronous. The sort of like I don't even know what the plot to the album is. But it's definitely like along the lines of the whole point of the whole thing is that it's the story of the hero's journey, and which everything is. There's nothing new about it. This is not a revolutionary thing.
Joseph Campbell.
In the hero's journey, there's the point where the hero gets the boon.
Oh yeah.
And then they go on with their adventure and they win and they go home changed. Yeah. What this is about what happens when the hero is rejected by the boon. So when I was making this album, the aesthetic and theme of it,
like the Siren's Call kind of thing.
It's more like, have you ever seen that movie Anastasia, the cartoon?
Oh God, not.
Okay, well, if you can just imagine any like Disney movie with a cackling kind of gay villain who does like the musical number where they kind of have
the Temptation.
Yeah, they have. Well, they have this attitude. A lot of Disney kind of villains they're coded a little homosexual.
Sure. Yeah.
And they have an attitude that's like hidden under layers of villainy, but the attitude is kind of like, well, no one is going to accept me for who I am, so like screw all of you, and I'm going to destroy the world, like whatever. And so that is like the feel of it is sort of like there's some like gender stuff wrapped up where it's like this world that like it's like a fairy world. It's like a cyberpunk forest fairy world.
Yeah,
where,
I've
like,
heard you describe it that.
Yeah, where like the main character like is like a genderqueer protagonist in a world full of like queer and genderqueer people, but is still sort of like rejected from this boon of like becoming the hero of the story.
I see.
And a lot of that is wrapped up with like me feeling like I've always sort of felt like I've always felt like not queer enough for like queer communities, but then like you don't quite like fit with like sort of heteronormative communities either, because people can just like tell that they're supposed to kill you. And so a lot of it is built up in that. And so the title is like exactly an accident. If I'm going to look up what you just talked about and then decide.
Well, like it's synchronous, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so in Babylon, they talk about the horror of Babylon in the Bible, and it's Jack Parsons, tried to get Marjorie Cameron, who was his wife, like she was supposed to be the new coming of Babylon, and basically it's like the hellhound horror of the rapture.
Oh.
But it's this archetypal female like destroyer, awesome.
Oh. See, what I was thinking when I was doing Babylon, I had just read a short story in this thing about the Tower of Babylon.
Sure. Tower of Babel.
Yeah, Babel. Where they tried to build too high to get to God or whatever.
Right.
And that was sort of the feel that I was coming from, where it was sort of like this thing of where you're like reaching so high to sort of like be what people want you to be, but you just don't and you fail.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I think it's inherently it's funny that you.
Yeah.
I thought this was a sinew or like a connected to what we were talking about earlier with Neptune and stuff, because it almost to me was a eureka moment. Like, oh, that's what I mean. Neptune in Babylon.
Yeah.
Because you were trying to take Neptune away from the archetypal, burly man.
I mean, that is cool.
And make it,
Yeah. Now I didn't understand what you were, because I didn't know the myth,
mythology.
Behind it.
I mean, I don't know if I do anymore.
But yeah, no, that is cool. So, as far as like ritual goes, the way that like this was created was that whenever I make any body of work, I always get like half of it done during like the creative rush phase.
Right.
And then I'm like, well, what do I do now? Like, how do I finish this?
Oh, I know how you feel.
The way that I always do it is I print out every scene or every song of lyrics or whatever, and I put it in a circle on the ground in the format of the hero's journey to try to like ascribe each like either song or like scene in a book, because I've written a few books this way too, so that I just say like, okay, this is this part of the hero's journey, and this is that part, and I put it in a circle like around myself so that I can just like see it in like map formation, and then I just like use that to like write the rest of it.
Sure.
And in this particular case, what I did is I drew a tarot card and a rune for each spot, so that I could use those energies to kind of direct where the things would go.
Yep. Yeah.
And it became this kind of big thing, and a lot of the drum beats are drawn sigils.
Oh, cool.
And
like MIDI kind of drawn?
MIDI.
Very
MIDI
cool.
drawn.
Yeah.
And some of the waveforms have been kind of like what tarot card would come up. I would kind of like use that with like a personal system I have to like figure out like, okay, like what key should this song be in, or like whatever.
Right. Yeah.
So there was a lot of that stuff that went into it. And it made this like 18 track album, which then the record label that's putting it out was like, that is way too long.
Yeah. So is it like full, like 3 or so minute songs each, or were there?
No, there was a couple like 5 or 6ers in there.
Okay, but it was they were all like full length songs.
Yeah, they were all very long. I mean, there was a couple of sort of like instrumental.
Sure.
Kind of, I like to call them scene changes.
Right.
Like it's kind of like in between when there's a scene and the lights go down and you can see all the tech crew running around,
Title
like
cards.
moving everything. Yeah. But
tech moving.
yeah.
Totally.
But then I was like, at first I was Fake 4 is putting out the album for me. They're a pretty doing good like hip hop and pop label, and they were like, oh, this is, because it's not like this is a pretty big release for me, but it's kind of like they're just helping someone out kind of thing, and so they were like, well, we're not really like, this is part of like kind of a thing where we're putting out EPs for all these different people. It's part of a thing. So they were like, we really like half of that would be good. And they were very nice about it. Like it was very good. And at first I had this like, oh, like I can't cut any of this. Like, I don't know. But I was very lucky that it had been 3 months in between where I like finished recording it and submitted it. And then between when they told me, so I had some space from it.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, and that's the great thing, is that like originally in my brain I was like, oh, I did all of this ritual and stuff, and like how can I let go of this stuff? And then I was just like, oh, I don't give a crap. Like like who cares? And that was when I realized, I was like, oh, like I'm just taking the album and making it smaller, which is exactly what you do when you're making a sigil.
Yeah, that's a sigil. Yeah.
Now I think it's kind of cool, because now it's like they're putting out the 8 songs, and then the rest of them, kind of like the director's cut, is like on my Patreon.
Oh, awesome.
And
so yeah, they could
once again,
the full thing.
I kind of view it as kind of like a video game thing where there's side quests and stuff, and it actually makes it, as far as the concept of it, it makes it easier for me to parse out like what is happening, because instead of having this like one linear plot that every song has to follow,
right,
it's like there's the main quest and then there's the other stuff,
right,
that like isn't that can happen at any point
the
during
interim. Side. Yeah. What do you call them? Side
quests.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Vidya games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like, it was really fun to make, and I'm really excited about it.
But there was like a heavy intention for tons of the facets of creating it.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit real quickly of the music composition side of that? Like, generating, the audiomancy, as I've totally ripped off the term?
So half of the songs started as just acoustic guitar songs.
Right.
And half of the songs started with like the beats. Like some of the like weirder sounding beats were when I kind of mashed together, because I'm a fairly new like beat maker. Like I've only been doing this electronic stuff for like 3 years, and even in that, Ableton I've only been doing for maybe like a year and a half. Before that, I was doing like on the Game Boy. I had a hacked Game Boy.
Right, yeah, I know the Game Boy.
Writing chip tunes on and stuff. And it was that is kind of was just me. So originally Fake 4 had wanted to put out something for me last year, but I wasn't ready, and they were like, "Oh, like why didn't you bug us more?" And I was like, I'm not. Well, no, I was not ready, I think that is an important thing for any creative artist to understand,
for anyone,
is when you are not ready for an opportunity of that exposure. Like, because you only get so many shots at that, and if you get the platform before you're ready for it, then everyone
suffers.
Well, you just won't be able to capitalize on it.
Sure.
And I just wasn't ready. Like, especially if you put me like maybe when I was doing my folk stuff, but if you put me with like my electronica stuff on the same label as like people doing hip hop and rap who have been like mixing beats for like their whole life, there's going to be a very stark difference between the quality of sound. So I took the whole year.
You got to bring it.
And I watched every mixing YouTube video that I could find, and like, so really a lot of these songs are like me learning as I go on how to be like better at doing this stuff. And so there was a lot of just like exploratory, there's a couple, like I was in the forest while I was recording this album. So I recorded like bug sounds and like put them into the beats. Because I really think that the, like I told you before, it's like a fairy cyberpunk forest thing, and I wanted it to be like the soundtrack to being able to like walk through an industrial factory or through a mountain range. Like I wanted to be able to fit both of those. I
hear the tracks I've heard, and the one you sent me earlier, which I listened to on my walk home, was like, I hear the composition of digital detritus, like the foliage, the digital foliage of things, you know, kind
that's
of
who
put
I am.
together, raked and into mountains of little hills of
so a lot of it was very just like me, because like I have the most fun writing when I'm learning something new, like a new skill. So a lot of it was that, and like, because I'd made a bunch of EPs that were like electronic dance music, but also this was something where I wanted to be like, I feel like when I quit doing the folk music and started doing the dance music, I was trying to run as far away from the folk music as I could.
Absolutely.
And this album, I wanted to try and like bring the two selves a little bit closer together, to be like, okay, like, because at this point in my life, I'm like, it's been a long time since I've been interested in doing things based on what other people want me to do.
Well, sure, yeah.
But I think that the result of being that kind of person is that you often do things in spite of what other people want you to do. And now in my life, I'm trying to be very intentional about finding out exactly who I want to be, like, not in spite of other people, and not based on what other people expect,
unadulterated.
And that's what I think this album is, maybe a first or second step towards being, in that it is, I feel like it's very me, and I feel very comfortable with it, and it just, I kind of have been able to find like a place where I can write the pop songs, but also have kind of a little bit of the long-winded storyteller stuff in there too. But it was a long process, and I'm not a long process kind of person. I'm I'm a very quick, like I'll have a day where I'll just get the sudden urge to record a 4-song EP and I'll put it out the next day on Bandcamp. So the idea of spending like a year writing and recording an album and then another like 4 to 5 months like mixing it and waiting for it to come out.
And also to be in a completely different like environment as it comes out, you know.
Yeah. No, I mean that is the weird thing. Like I don't even and it's good because I don't want to be
it's
like
a testament to it working. Like it's not.
Yeah, no, it's good. But I also like there's a lot of things that musicians do when new albums come out, and I don't want to do any of those things. Like I'm
like
not
be on podcasts.
Podcasts are fun. But like I mean, yeah, I think being on podcasts is like the one thing I want to do because then I get to like talk about things I want to talk about. But I don't want to play like the CD release show. Right. I don't want to go on tour. I'm not even going to play that many shows to promote it.
You're speaking to my rule book for the last one.
I think that if I was back where I come from, then there would be that pull from me to be from inside of me, to like kind of live up to this hustle, to be like, okay, like I know these certain venues that I could book a show at with these certain bands, and I know this tour I could go on, and I know these certain whatever. But here, like I have met a lot of people here, but like I haven't known them long enough.
You've played a lot of shows.
Yeah. I need to stop.
But I mean, it was a good whirlwind, I think.
Yeah, like, I mean, I got to make a lot of friends, which is nice.
You met the consequence of sound in Portland, like quickly.
Yeah. I got to make a lot of friends, and that's good for a new place.
Absolutely.
Like and I think that
you can't buy that kind of fucking calibration.
Yeah, and it's been really nice because I feel like I've learned a lot about myself in that like a lot of music scene stuff is very like need-based sort of friendship, and I've been doing a really good job of being like meeting someone and being like, okay, you are someone who we are only going to talk when we're planning a show or doing whatever, and then meeting other people and being like, okay, you actually want to hang out with me. Like, and it's not that I don't like put up a wall to the first people, but I definitely like cater my time towards the second people. Yeah. Because that's like where I'm at with my life.
Totally. And you're in a new place where you don't have to feel the burden of, not answering every call because of whatever like reputation you had prior.
No, I don't care. Like I came here to retire from music, and it has been fun. Like it's been fun getting this because like I never like there are definitely a lot of people who respect me back home, and I do have a lot of friends back home. But
I already have equal amounts, I think, here.
It's more that I never like really had a lot of like the opportunities that I didn't have to like make for myself back home. And here everybody's sort of like, I showed up and everybody was just like, oh, here's like everything you want. You don't have to do anything. Yeah. And that was a very nice way of the universe saying, hey, I'm sorry. Here's an apology gift. And now that I've accepted the apology gift, I can say, it's okay, universe.
It was the universe's fault, huh?
Yeah, definitely. But, well, it's not so much the universe's fault, but more about, like, if the universe had some kind of, like, lesson it was teaching me as to, like, how hard it was for me back home, then, like, it was sort of like, okay, like, you made it through. Like, sorry it was so hard, but, like, you made it through the other side. Here's, like, what you were missing and what you were asking for all that time. And it was nice to have that like gift for like the past few months.
That's amazing.
And now that I've had that gift, I can move on with my life.
Unplug and run.
Yeah, I can be like, okay, I did it. Like for instance, this whole thing with like getting put out on like Fake 4. Like Fake 4 is like kind of I feel like a mid-level to higher indie kind of label. Yeah. And they do a really good, and like I think for a lot of people, this would be like the the proof that you have the hype and then you build on that like a career. For me, this is the credits roll. This is like
I say,
this is like
when
I
you
did
stop
it.
wanting it, that's when the magic works.
Yeah, this is like, you know what? I did the thing.
Yeah.
And now I can move on with the rest of my life and do other things.
Yeah.
Because really, like, what I figured out, like, beyond all of this, like, magic and, like music
What do
and
you
all
mean?
this other stuff, what I really want to do is I want to make a piece of art that has made me cry the way that my favorite pieces of art have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, that is, like, there are some things that, like, some, like, movies, I mean, I'm a crier anyways, but there's some, like, there's like some stories or some things that, like, by the end of it, I'm just like a mess for hours. And, like, I want to make a thing that makes people feel that.
I agree.
And I'm not 100% sure that, like, music is, like, what it is for me. Like, I think other people can do it with that, but I don't think that that's my end game. And I'm really excited to find out what my end game is. And I don't know what it is quite yet, but that's what's really exciting to me. And it's good.
Yeah, I share that same sentiment. Well, the song that we're premiering is called...
It's either called...
I saw that. There, I want to make this note.
Yeah.
That there was punctuation in that I didn't know if I should announce.
No, it's... Yeah, I mean, I do not have a reputation that I need to worry about as far as being together. But
No, I just wanted to get it
song,
right.
Yeah, I want to get it right too, which is I'm not sure that I have the right answer.
I see.
So the song is called Shred the Paper. I think, unless I change my mind before it comes out, I still have to send all, like, the liner notes.
It was like
to people.
shred /
Yeah. So
something else.
That was I did do, when they asked me to shorten the album, I did do one trick where there's I took one of the instrumental tracks and I just shoved it onto the end of Shred the Paper.
Yeah.
So that's like, oh, it's just a 5-minute song.
That's cool though.
But yeah, the ending thing was called Drastic, so that's why it's called
That's
Shred.
what it is,
Shred, and then / Drastic, which is fun because it makes it into, like, Shred-tastic.
I was gonna say it seemed like a rad.
Yeah, it makes it seem
title.
like I can play guitar really well, which I can't.
Well, the song is a fucking banger, as it were. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. It's all about drawing sigils.
Yeah.
The choruses are, because it's what is it? If you let the body count on my own. Draw the skeleton, shred the paper. It's all about just, like, drawing a sigil and being a sigil and activating it. And the verses are gobbledygook that don't matter.
Well, I'm sure they matter to you, or at the time they did, right?
Well,
It's like glossolalia.
I do.
Angelic language.
This is another never meet your heroes thing. Not that I'm your hero, but when I write songs and I make the beats first, I will just, like, record myself singing gobbledygook over it.
I do that all the time. Sometimes it makes it in, too.
Yeah, and this was one time where I was like, ooh, and I tried re-recording it, like, so many times, because I had just recorded gobbledygook, and then I wrote lyrics along to the gobbledygook, and no matter how many times I tried re-recording it, it just never sounded better than the gobbledygook.
Oh yeah, I know.
And I'm like,
so funny you bring that up.
It's a Lady Gaga song.
I was listening,
like, it's fine.
I was listening to an interview with another, like, a famous songwriter.
Yeah.
And he was talking about how, to have filler or had a good melody, he'll just record a scratch track of glossolalia, And I was like, oh my God, that's exactly what I do. Unfortunately, sometimes that's way better than whatever words can fit in, when you're writing it like that.
Yeah.
But that's also, and once again, is that what you feel when you channel? Is that what we were talking about earlier? It's a perfect thing to end on.
Yeah.
When you have those experiences, is that music to you? Is that...
Yeah. No, I mean, definitely the most... I'm not sure if this is what you're asking me, but the most... like, connected I ever feel to the universe is when I'm, like, doing something musically and I don't remember Like if I play a set and then I don't remember the set after.
Yeah.
Like if I really drop in to a set and just like am no longer there because I'm somewhere else, that is like the most connected and magic and spooky that I get.
Something so long.